Josh Jacobs and Todd Gurley are unlikely to play this week. What are you going to do? Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Football Free for All. This is week 13. This is where winners and losers are made. The folks who win this week go into the playoffs strong, and who knows, maybe this is your year. So let's start. Saints at Falcons. The Saints defense is a little bit banged up. We've got Janoris Jenkins and Marcus Davenport, both unlikely to play. That does hurt them a little bit, but listen, while the Falcons are on a hot streak, the Saints are even better. I still think Taysom Hill is the wrong choice, but egg has been all over my face for the last 2 weeks. What we've got, though, is a decrease in value for Alvin Kamara. I think Alvin Kamara was a little nicked up last week, and I think that is a substantial impact to his fantasy value and why Latavius Murray got so much more work. But I also think that there is a downgrade because Latavius Murray and Taysom Hill kind of take up the same position. They're both those dynamic, shifty players. One just happens to be a 30-year-old quarterback who has no point being in the league. But, I mean, egg on my face again, right? On the other side, Julio Jones is questionable. He seems to indicate that he is going to play. If he plays, then you've got to start him. Calvin Ridley is a must start as well. If Julio is out, Russell Gage sees a slight increase in value. Todd Gurley is likely going to miss this game. Brian Hill and Ito Smith are not worth playing. Get away from that. This team against the Saints defense is not where you want to hang your hat, especially if you are relying on this win to get into the fantasy playoffs. Go check out some other options. Bengals at Dolphins. All right, the Bengals, it's time to pack up. Your season's over. Joe Burrow going out eliminated all the value from this team. There is not a single player on the Bengals that is worth rostering anymore. Here's looking at you, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Giovanni Bernard, AJ Green. All of them are droppable. Yes, there may be a little bit of fantasy value in junk time, but listen, you need more consistency than what you can get out of the Bengals quarterbacks. It's just not where you want to rely on. Gaskin has the potential to come off the COVID-19 list. If he does that, that changes the entire dynamics of this team because Ahmed and DeAndre Washington are both on the injury report. Matt Breida has a fumbling problem. I think his career's on the tail end. Tua is also questionable. If Tua does not play, Ryan Fitzpatrick is a must start against this absolutely terrible Bengals defense. Gaskin, Fitzpatrick, Parker, all starts. Gesicki is a little bit of an interesting one. He's so boom or bust. He got you a touchdown last week, but I would be looking elsewhere. Go check and see if Zach Ertz is out there, or Dallas Goedert, or even Frisker over at the Titans. As much as I personally really like Gesicki as a player, they're just not utilizing him enough to give him starting fantasy value. Raiders at Jets. The Raiders are going to be essentially hamstrung here. They are going to be without Josh Jacobs. They got absolutely embarrassed by the Falcons. Embarrassed. I was on here saying how I thought they were a sneaky team, and then they proved me wrong. They looked terrible. Carr needs to bounce back. He needs to target Henry Ruggs. He needs to target Waller the Baller. And Devontae Booker is probably a start here. The Jets are terrible. So as much as I hesitate to say this, I think you have to start these players again. I think you have to go to Oakland and say, all right, you burned me once, but I got to go back to the well. Start Waller the Baller. Start Henry Ruggs. Start Carr. Start Booker. They all have value. This Jets team is garbage. It's just hot garbage. They are not good. They are going to go 0-16. They're not going to win a game this year. Colts at Texans. The Colts are pretty banged up on the offensive line and a little bit on the defense. But the core team is all good to go. Jonathan Taylor should be back. Not that I'm super excited about it, but against this Texans defense, anything is possible. Phillip Rivers, Captain Dip and Dunk, is going to see Trey Burton, Mo Alley Cox, T.Y. Hilton, Zach Pascal. I mean, all of those guys are a potential. I'm not excited about any of them. I just can't get excited about the Colts. I think that they are a very overrated team. But the Texans are like just a team that is, sure, they have rebounded a little bit. They've got 4 wins. Good job. Deshaun Watson is a start. But without Will Fuller, this team is much less dynamic. And he's suspended for the rest of the season. So, that's how I feel. Moving on, Lions at Bears. Another week without Kenny Galladay. That, I think, is the core summary of this entire matchup. This is a game devoid of talent. Kenny Galladay is the best player on both sides of the ball here. We've got Matt Stafford, who's still a little dinged up. DeAndre Swift is now sick with an illness, and he's questionable. And then the Bears. The Bears are miserable. Mitch Trubisky, back. Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Khalil Mack, they're all questionable. If Khalil Mack, Darnell Mooney, and Allen Robinson don't play, this might be the least exciting game in the history of the NFC North. I mean, talk about two teams in utter freefall. They are terrible. Jags at Vikings. Another one where it's like, ooh, as much as I'm a Vikings fan, and I think Justin Jefferson showed what he can do, the Jags are just not good. They're just not. And it's not like the Vikings are in the top half of the league either. So this is another non-marquee matchup. It's another disappointing game for everybody. I think that Glennon should make it a little more competitive because this Vikings defense has really been iffy. But it's not like DJ Chark is like a top 5 receiver this week. We haven't seen him play with Glennon. We have no idea how that's going to go. James Robinson should have a good game. Dalvin Cook should have a good game. Justin Jefferson should have a good game. Thielen should be back from the COVID-19 list. And, I mean, the Vikings should have a fairly easy win, but we just don't know what Glennon's going to do. Moving on, Rams at Cardinals. So, the Rams really are quite healthy. They got 2 guys on the defense that are a little nicked up. And Darrell Henderson, I don't know if something's wrong with him. But what we're seeing is Jared Goff should have a day. The Cardinals defense is quite a bit more banged up than I think it indicates just on the injury report. The other thing is that we could see a reemergence of Cam Akers. I think Cam Akers is somebody that if he's out there, he's worth a bench spot. What you want to be doing for preparing for the fantasy playoffs is get rid of some of that filler. The wide receiver 3 and 4 for bye week fill-ins. Get folks that you think can boom for the remainder of the year. Examples of folks that I am dropping: T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Travis Fulgham. Those are guys that it's like, all right, thanks, you got me through a week here, you got me through a week there. It's time to go. Deshaun Jackson, Jalen Reagor, if you're hanging on to any of these guys, get them off your bench. Get folks with upside. And that is Cam Akers. Go get him. For the Cardinals, Jalen Thompson, D'Angelo Blackson, Rashard Lawrence, and Charles Washington are all questionable. This team isn't quite humming the way that I think we anticipated it. I mean, yes, they still are doing okay, but I anticipated so much more. I thought Kenyon Drake would just like slam this team all over the, like just take it. And Chase Edmonds would just be this dynamic 1-2 punch. And I've been a little disappointed. To just be honest, I've been disappointed with this team. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is a stud. And Kyler Murray is, I mean, he's a top 5 quarterback play every week. But I'm just not as excited about this team as I thought I would be. Giants at Seahawks. The Giants are likely going to be without Daniel Jones. Colt McCoy stepping in. That's not a good thing for the Giants, who are very much in competition for the NFC East, which is disgusting, by the way. But without Daniel Jones, this team falls off a cliff. It's not like Darius Slayton was really showing you a ton of value, but Wayne Gallman and Sterling Shepard both see a drop with Colt McCoy under the helm. The Seahawks, they're banged up. Carlos Dunlap, Trey Flowers, Travis Homer, Brandon Snell, Carlos Hyde, Damian Lewis. They're either questionable or out. This should be a good game for Chris Carson. It should be a good game for DK Metcalf. It should be a game for like everybody because of how bad the Giants are. But I'm worried. The Saints have been playing down to their competition. They have been struggling to just get that definitive win. It seems like they let Russ cook for the first 5 weeks, and then they started ratcheting back, holding their resources, not just letting the offense go. And I'd be really interested to find out, is this a Chris Carson decision, or a Chris Carson kind of consequence of him being hurt? Is Pete Carroll just like a little more conservative? What's going on? Why is this team not just absolutely throttling teams? They have probably 2 of the best receivers in the league, and they're just not using them as effectively as they should be. It's a very confusing situation. Eagles at Packers. Listen, the Eagles are a bad team. I think that's where we're at. Carson Wentz, I don't know what's wrong with you. If you're hurt, that makes a lot of sense because the accuracy is not there, the dynamic movement's not there. And then also, whoever's running this team from a GM standpoint, you have put Carson Wentz in one of the worst positions of any quarterback in the NFL. The amount of talent around him is so low. I mean, I saw reports about how they're upset about Justin Jefferson. They could have had him. Yeah, you should be upset. Jalen Reagor's been essentially a non-factor. He has 212 yards through 13 weeks. He has been on IR for most of it. This team is miserable. Miles Sanders is a bright spot. Zach Ertz should be a bright spot. But you're not paying the people that you need to pay. This team sucks. You need to go into rebuilding mode. Congratulations, you won a Super Bowl a couple of years back. That doesn't mean this team is still good. Break it down. Get young players in there. Get a different coach. Peterson, sorry, man. It's time for you to go. This team is bad. Any other team that performed this poorly, they would have been like the Lions and had a full sweep. I hate advocating for someone to lose their job, but it's clear this team is lost. The Packers, on the other hand, they've got their foot on the gas. They are pushing. Allen Lazard is someone that I think is in for a big week. Devontae Adams is obviously the top wide receiver for the entire NFL. I mean, he should have been the first receiver off the board in all drafts. Michael Thomas has been very disappointing this year, but Allen Lazard should see an increase in targets. Aaron Jones should also see a better day. And Aaron Rodgers is a must start. Let's get that out of the way. Broncos at Chiefs. Hopefully the Broncos are less embarrassing this week. Hopefully. But the Chiefs are just going to throttle them. Like, let's be real. If the Chiefs did that last week, imagine what they're going to do to a Broncos team that threw for 19 yards last week. Or 13 yards, sorry. Like, come on. Come on. That is miserable. Yes, Drew Lock will be back. But I don't think we're really excited about a team that hasn't been able to practice together. That is so devoid of like any sort of cohesive progress. I mean, it's just embarrassing right now. With all of the information coming out about the Broncos ownership, there does need to be a sale of this team. Yes, the Bolins led them to a Super Bowl victory. Many. 3. They got 3 Super Bowls under the Bolin family. But that time is done. It's time to move on. Get new ownership in there. Get new general manager, president, CEO. Get this team back on track. It needs help. I'm going to do Browns at Titans. The Browns are getting Myles Garrett back, which is great. But they're also going to be out without Denzel Ward. This defense, it's like you get one player, you lose 2. This defense is actually okay. They're a bend not break defense. The Browns are still competitive. They still have a shot, or they have a very real shot to make the playoffs. But they need to get this offense on track. Right now, they're winning in like a very kind of boring run the ball only fashion. Baker Mayfield is not showing any dynamic playmaking. Last week, Baker Mayfield had one of the worst throws I've seen in the NFL in like 8 years. He missed Rashad Higgins wide open in the end zone. They should have won by more last week, but they didn't. The Titans are going to continue to roll. Yes, they are down Jonnu Smith. Yes, Anthony Firkser is a little bit more interesting. But you know who your core players are? A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill. Those are the 3 that are in lineups no matter what. Those are the folks that you're going to. Those are the folks that you are relying on. Those are the folks who are going to get you through. Patriots at Chargers. Cam Newton and then the entire rest of the team are all questionable. Yes, the Patriots won last week. Yes, the Chargers aren't that good. But I'm not trusting Cam Newton anymore. Cam Newton is no longer a fantasy starter. You've got to get rid of him. He just doesn't have it. He's too inaccurate. He cost so many people games last week. 3.9 fantasy points last week. Really? Really, Cam Newton? Yes, you won. Yes, you shouldn't have to apologize for winning, but your accuracy and the play calling is just leading us astray. This team doesn't have anything to rely on. I'm not excited about it, and it's miserable for everybody that plays fantasy football. Get out of the Cam Newton business. He needs another year to kind of develop with this team. I'm not upset with the performance of Cam Newton per se, but I'm more upset with the absolute dreadful use of him. It's like they don't understand how to use Cam Newton properly. Let him run. It's not like he's your marquee quarterback going into the future. Use him to win games. Don't have him throwing the ball all over the place. On the Chargers, thank goodness Austin Eckler is back. Austin Eckler, thank you. You're finally back. And he is going to lead many teams that were able to stick with him to a fantasy championship. I think he is a top 10 running back week over week. You're starting him. Joshua Kelly, see ya. The Barrage, see ya. It's Austin Eckler all day. Herbert's still a starter. Mike Williams is nothing more than a flex. Additionally, we have 3 Monday night games. We don't have the injury reports, but we can make some assumptions. We've got Washington Steelers. I would anticipate James Conner is back from the reserve list. I think that he should be good to go. But if he's not, Benny Snell is another one that you're going to dial up. With Bud Dupree being lost for the year, Antonio Gibson is much more interesting. I think that he will still be a starter, even though this defense is still going to be very, very stout. Cowboys at Ravens, we have no idea what's going to happen. Without Lamar Jackson, this team is lost. Swirly, yeah, he got an absolute freak pass to Marquise Brown. But we don't know how ravaged this team is still going to be from their absolute decimation from COVID-19. It's terrible. The Cowboys are not good, so let's not fool ourselves. Even with Swirly under helm, the Ravens could still win, because it's not like Andy Dalton has just been on fire. But I just can't make any recommendations here because I don't know. The Cowboys were so bad on Thanksgiving that there's no way you can recommend them even against an absolute reeling Ravens team. Bills at 49ers. Now, this is a game I'm excited about. You're starting to get the 49ers healthy again. You're starting to see them kind of get that punch back. They don't have a lot of their defense still because they won't for this year, but Deebo Samuels is back. Raheem Mostert's back. This is a team that could actually do something against a very bad Bills defense. The Bills, Gabriel Davis is somebody I'm very interested in. I think that he is going to come on very heavy during the fantasy playoffs. I would look at him, both Deebo Samuels, see if he's out there, and Gabriel Davis. Deebo Samuel is number one because he's a wide receiver one, but Gabriel Davis, I think, could be a really sneaky wide receiver 3 and has value as a flex play. Josh Allen, you're starting. I'm not crazy about Devin Singletary or Zach Moss, but one of them is going to see, obviously, the predominant workload. I think it's going to be Devin Singletary. I think that the Steelers, or I think it's going to be Devin Singletary because I think the 49ers are a little more susceptible to passing running backs rather than Zach Moss, who's going to just kind of punch you in the face over and over. So I have a slight edge to Devin Singletary. Obviously, you're starting Stephon Diggs. Cole Beasley, and I'm not going anywhere near Dawson Knox or any of the other pass catchers. Finally,